Picture this. I'm standing in the middle of a department store that smells like old carpet, cheap discount candles, and the faint scent of someone's fried lunch drifting in from the break room. The fluorescent lights above are buzzing like angry insects, flickering just enough to make the edges of my vision pulse. Behind me is a backdrop stand that wobbles if you breathe too hard, a pair of halogen lights that heat the entire room like a toaster oven, and a plastic folding chair with one leg shorter than the other. And in front of me, a line of angry customers stretching so far that I can't even see where it ends. Kids crying, babies screaming, two toddlers fighting over a balloon, a mother promising her child ice cream if she would just smile, and a guy holding a dog that's vibrating with anxiety, like it just swallowed a blender. And right in the center of that chaos is me. Not a photographer, not an artist, just a punching bag in a company polo shirt. What none of them knew was that at that very moment, while I was trying to convince a toddler to stop eating the prop flowers, was silently deciding something that would burn this entire company to the ground. I wasn't there yet, but the fuse had been lit. My boss thought he could force me to work behind the worst preseller in company history. He thought he could bully me into Florida, then ignore my resignation like it meant nothing. 3 months later, I wasn't just gone. I had their entire business model, their equipment, their contracts, their photographers, and eventually, their entire company. And it all started with 1 week. One man, one lie too many. Before I take you into the storm, do me a favor. If you've ever been pushed to your breaking point by someone who thought you were replaceable, hit that like button. And if you're someone who believes justice comes in many forms, sometimes legal, sometimes karmic, sometimes beautifully creative, then subscribe now. Because this story, this one is going to feel good. I spent years working for a business I'll just call them the company, because honestly, they don't deserve the satisfaction of anyone remembering their name. Their system ran on 3 steps. A preseller would go ahead of me and sell special portraits, convince families to book, and collect an $8 sitting fee. I, the photographer, would come in for a week and shoot the sessions. A salesperson would return 2 weeks later and try to upsell families into spending $300, $400. It sounds simple, maybe even organized. It wasn't. It was a conveyor belt of chaos. 10 minutes per session, 30 to 50 sessions per day. No breaks, no breathing room, no time to fix a wrinkle in a shirt or wipe a kid's nose without falling behind schedule. But here's the thing. I was damn good at it. I don't say that lightly. Where the company average was $100 per customer, I regularly pulled $175 per customer. Where the company photographers did 50 sessions a day, I did fewer sessions with better quality, and still made more money for the company. Families asked for me by name. Stores called my manager to request me. Even the sales team loved following behind me because my photos practically sold themselves. But instead of valuing me, instead of rewarding me, the company twisted the knife. You don't meet your sitting quota. You're too slow. You're not fast enough. No raise for you. No bonus this quarter. You know that feeling when you're giving everything, your energy, your patience, your talent, and the people above you treat you like you owe them even more. That was me. Exhausted, unseen, pushed past my limits. And then came the man who would change everything. Imagine a man who never met a lie he didn't immediately try to sell as a special deal. Now give him cheap cologne, a greasy smile, and the ethics of a raccoon digging through your trash. That's the jerk. He was a preseller, but really, he was a walking disaster. He never collected the $8 sitting fee. He promised families anything to book them. Sure, bring your dog. Oh, your family reunion has 15 people. Perfect. 5 outfit changes. She loves doing makeup. She'll do it for you. Don't worry about the fee. It's waived for you. Guess who paid when that fee wasn't collected? Me. Straight out of my paycheck. He triple booked, made up open appointments, and told people to show up anytime. He did a level of damage only possible when someone is both lazy and extremely confident. I complained. I begged. I pleaded with management. I told my boss point blank, if you schedule me behind him again, I quit. And my boss looked me in the eyes and lied. Don't worry. You won't be behind him. Guess where they sent me next? Right behind him. I stepped into the store. I opened the appointment book, and my blood ran cold. Times stacked on times. Families stacked on families. Giant groups squeezed into 10-minute slots. Notes that said things like dog, makeup, 15 people, family reunion, 3 babies, free special, no fee charged. Every line on that appointment sheet had a ticking bomb attached to it. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. No. I reached for the phone. I dialed my boss. And with a calmness I didn't even know I was capable of, I said, this is my last week. I quit. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known was that the next 3 days would push me into a level of exhaustion and fury I had never experienced, and that they would set the foundation for the greatest revenge I would ever get in my life. When I walked into that store on the first morning of the 3-day shoot, I could already feel something was wrong. The store felt heavier than usual, like the air itself had soaked up the tension left behind by the mess the jerk had created. My shoes made soft taps against the old department store tiles as I crossed the floor, and my heart was beating harder than it should have. I hadn't even opened the appointment folder yet, but the look on the store manager's face, a mix of apology, fear, and exhausted frustration, told me everything I needed to know. This was going to be hell. I remember setting my bag down and taking a deep breath before reaching for the appointment log. I told myself not to react, not to panic, just breathe. But the moment I flipped that folder open and saw the page, my pulse hammered so loud I could feel it in my teeth. Names piled on names, time slots overlapping like someone had dropped ink onto the page and tried to turn the spill into a schedule. 10 o'clock, 3 families. 10:10, 8 people with a dog. 10:15, family of 12. Free special. 10:20, baby twins plus cousins outfit change. Then more, and more, and more. Every line was chaos. Every line was a lie sold by the jerk. I skimmed down the sheet, my eyes moving faster and faster, my stomach tightening with every impossible note scribbled in blue ink. Fee waived. No fee mentioned. Special. Promised. Just show up. Anytime. Told makeup available. Double. Special price. My chest burned as I processed it. I knew exactly what this meant. I would have to collect fees that families believed they didn't owe. I would have to explain lies I didn't tell. I would have to manage people who would blame me for problems I didn't create. And I knew deep in my bones that none of them were going to be patient about it. I closed the book slowly, my fingers trembling just a little. I didn't slam it. I didn't curse. I didn't walk away. I stood there in that fake little studio space, cheap backdrop behind me, oppressive halogen lights beside me, the faint smell of popcorn from the snack stand drifting over, and I made a choice. A quiet, powerful, dangerous choice. I picked up the store phone, dialed my boss, and said in a voice that surprised even me, "This is my last week. I quit." And like every predictable, pathetic manager who thinks his power is permanent, he tried to argue, he tried to push, he tried to bully. But I didn't fight back. I simply repeated myself. I quit. I should have walked out. I should have taken my things, packed the camera, folded the backdrop, and walked straight out of that store without looking back. But I was young. I still believed in finishing what I started. And part of me, stupid, loyal, hopeful, wanted to leave cleanly. So, like a fool, I stayed. And then, the nightmare began. The first morning wasn't even the worst of it. It was the confusion that hit right after opening. I walked in early, as I always did, to set up the studio backdrop straight. Lights adjusted, camera tested, props arranged, sample photos displayed. By the time I finished adjusting the lighting, a line had already formed. People glaring, people tapping their feet, people mumbling angrily about how the guy said we could come early. The store didn't even open until 10 a.m., but they were there at 9, staring at me through the locked gates like I held their lives hostage. The store manager unlocked the gate, and the avalanche hit immediately. We were told we would be first. That's why we came early. That man said you'd squeeze us in. He promised you'd do our makeup. He said the dog was allowed. He told us the sitting fee was free. Why are you charging us? Every sentence felt like a slap. Every accusation chipped at my patience. I tried to explain. I tried to stay calm. I tried to keep my voice steady. But they weren't listening. They didn't want explanations. They wanted what they believed they were promised. They wanted magic. They wanted lies turned into reality. And I was the one forced to tell them those lies weren't true. By noon, my shirt was clinging to my back with sweat from the hot lights. My hair stuck to my forehead. My throat felt raw from speaking nonstop. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't sat down. I hadn't even taken a sip of water. Every time I turned my head, someone else was in my face. We've been waiting an hour. Are you almost done? This is ridiculous. Do you know what customer service means? Every complaint hit me like a physical blow. Kids screamed. Babies kicked. Dogs barked. A toddler ripped the fabric flower prop I used for baby sessions. Someone spilled juice on the backdrop cloth. A teenager knocked one of the halogen lights off balance. My hands shook as I caught it before it hit the floor. And still, the line grew. That first day, I shot over 100 families. That alone would be unbelievable, but it wasn't even the worst day. The second day is burned into my memory like a scar. I remember standing behind the camera, trying to coax a smile out of 3 siblings who absolutely hated each other. The little boy kicked his sister. She screamed. The baby cried. Their mother glared at me like I was personally torturing them. My head throbbed. My shoulders ached. I crouched down, forced a cheerful tone, and said, "Okay, everyone, let's try one more time." And then it happened. A customer threw a shoe at me. Not dropped it. Not tossed it. Threw it. At me. It hit my shoulder and clattered across the floor. For a split second, I didn't even react. I just blinked. I was so numb, so drained, so far beyond human exhaustion that my brain couldn't even process outrage. I just thought, of course. Why not? Why not one more thing? Then, before I could respond, another customer, about her wait time, walked past the counter where I had set my untouched lunch and spit on my pizza, just leaned over and did it. Right in front of me. And I still had hours left. I still had dozens of families waiting. I still had to keep working. That was the moment the store's security guard stepped in. A tall, quiet guy who had watched the chaos escalate all morning. He picked up the shoe, handed it back to the mother who threw it, and said in a calm voice that held a surprising amount of steel, "Ma'am, if you throw anything else, you will be escorted out." Then he turned to me, placed a chair near my setup, and said, "Sit when you can. You're not alone." I didn't sit once. Not that day. Not the next. But the gesture kept me standing. Over the next 2 days, he escorted multiple customers out of the store for screaming, threatening, and trying to storm into the studio space. He stood by me like a silent shield while I photographed 316 families in 3 days. I pushed my body past limits I didn't even know existed. My hands hurt from gripping the camera. My eyes burned. I barely slept. When I closed my eyes at night, I still heard screaming kids and angry parents echoing in my skull. By the end of the third day, my voice was nearly gone. My legs trembled so badly that the manager had to help me break down part of the equipment. I had been insulted, yelled at, hit with objects, and degraded so thoroughly that I felt hollow. I survived it. But after that week, I wasn't the same person. Something inside me had snapped into clarity. Something cold, something focused, something dangerous. And when the company didn't show up to pick up their equipment, when they ignored my resignation, dismissed my exhaustion, and ordered me to go to Florida as if I were a machine they owned, I realized something. If they saw me as disposable, then they didn't deserve to have me at all. They had broken me. Now I was going to break them back. When I woke up on the third morning of that nightmare week, my arms felt like I had been lifting furniture all night, and my head was pounding in a slow, rhythmic ache that matched the buzzing of those fluorescent lights I knew were waiting for me. The moment my feet touched the floor, a wave of dread washed over me so heavy that, for a second, I genuinely considered not going, not calling, not explaining, just disappearing. But disappearing would mean they won. And I wasn't ready to hand them that victory. So I dragged myself into my car, wiped the makeup from under my tired eyes, and drove to the store, where the line of customers had already started forming. 30 minutes before opening, the second I unlocked the set and the lights flickered on, the heat hit me like a suffocating blanket. I barely had time to breathe before the first mother rushed in with 3 kids, each one holding some kind of sticky snack that would definitely smear across someone's shirt. 10 minutes turned into 20 because the baby wouldn't stop crying. The toddler wouldn't stop running, and the mother insisted she wanted just one perfect picture. I forced a smile. Click, click. Next family. Then another, and another. I lost count somewhere after 30. Every family came with a warning scribbled in the appointment book by the jerk. I feel myself unraveling minute by minute. My body was shaking from standing too long, bending too much, lifting babies, calming toddlers, adjusting lights, snapping photos, resetting props, and repeating the same fake cheerful line. All right. Big smiles, everyone. There was no break, no pause. No water, no air. Every time I tried to catch my breath, the next family was already stepping over the backdrop and apologizing for being a little early, even though they were 40 minutes late. And the worst part, every single one of them had been promised something by the jerk that I now had to deliver, or I would be the one they screamed at. By noon, my voice was cracking. By 2 p.m., my knees were shaking. By 3 p.m., the lights in the store felt like they were burning holes through my skin. And by 4 p.m., my patience was hanging on by a single thread. That thread snapped when a woman walked in with 7 relatives, 3 outfit changes, and a dog that immediately peed on my backdrop. And then she said the words I had grown to hate. The preseller told us you do all this for free. I swallowed the rage, forced a smile, and did the entire session anyway, because if I didn't, the company would blame me. But the real breaking point wasn't the customers. It wasn't even the jerk's endless lies. It was what happened after store hours, because every night that week, long after the store had closed and I should have been home resting, the jerk started calling my phone. First it was to check how the day went, then it was to see if I needed help. Soon, the calls turned into whining, claiming I was making him look bad, that customers were complaining, that management was watching him because of me, and when I ignored the calls, he started texting me rapid-fire messages, long paragraphs, then late-night voicemails where he'd sigh dramatically about how he was so stressed and how we needed to work together. By the 4th night, he was calling until 2 in the morning, not just once or twice, 37 times. I remember standing in my hotel bathroom, holding my phone, staring at his name repeating over and over until the screen timed out, and something inside me cracked wide. Open, exhaustion, humiliation, fury, all the swallowed feelings, all the forced smiles, all the unfair blame, they fused together into one sharp, burning spark. That night, for the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't complain. I didn't feel helpless. I felt focused. Because right then, in that cheap hotel room with peeling wallpaper and buzzing AC, I made a decision that would rewrite everything. If the company didn't care about me, I would stop caring about the company. And not just stop caring. I would plan, observe, learn exactly how their broken system worked. So one day, I could break it better than they ever broke me. I didn't know it yet, but this week, the hardest, most miserable, most draining week of my career, was building the foundation for the revenge that would one day bring their entire business crashing down. The morning after the jerks, 37 missed calls, I woke up with a kind of headache that didn't feel physical anymore. It felt personal. Like my brain was tired of trying to convince my heart to keep going. My alarm buzzed again and again. But I just lay there staring at the cracked ceiling of the hotel room, listening to the AC sputter like it was struggling to survive the same way I was. I had never felt dread like that before, a cold, heavy knot sinking right into my chest. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just tired from work. I was tired of being treated like I didn't matter. Eventually, I forced myself up, because that's what I always did, push through, even when no one else saw the effort. When I reached the store, the line of customers was already twisting through the aisles like a restless snake. Kids crying, couples arguing, a dog barking, a baby screaming loud enough to echo. The minute I stepped into my setup, I felt the heat of the lights press against my skin like punishment. Families rushed me the second they saw me, all of them armed with promises the jerk had made. He said we could have extra poses. He said we didn't need to pay. He said we get retouches for free. I wasn't even surprised anymore. Each lie was just another weight tossed onto my back, and somehow I kept lifting it. By midday, my throat was raw. My hands were shaking, and every time I knelt to fix a child's outfit, I had to grab the backdrop frame just to pull myself back up. The jerk kept texting nonstop. Call me when you can. Don't ignore me. I know you're busy, but we need to talk. His messages popped up like little explosions on my screen, each one reminding me how tangled this mess had become. I didn't respond. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the patience. And honestly, I didn't have the respect left for him. When the final family left 2 hours after closing, I locked the equipment, grabbed my bag, and went straight to my car. I didn't even start the engine. I just sat there gripping the steering wheel with both hands, trembling, trying to breathe through the heavy, suffocating pressure in my chest. For a moment, I thought about calling my boss, not to quit, just to tell him what had happened, to show him how hard this week had been, to make him understand, maybe even to ask for help. But then I remembered every other time I tried to talk to him, the fake listening, the nodding, the false sympathy, the way he always twisted things back to being my fault. Still, I was tired. I was done holding everything inside. So I called. He picked up on the second ring, cheerful like he hadn't ignored every warning I had given him. Hey, how's the week going? His voice alone made my stomach drop. I told him the truth. The overbook, the chaos, the lies, the harassment, the customers yelling, the dogs, the late nights, the 37 calls. I told him everything, not angrily, not dramatically, just honestly, because honesty was the only thing I had left. There was a long pause on the phone. I actually thought he was absorbing it. I thought maybe, finally, he understood. Then he said the 7 words that sealed his fate. Well, that's just part of the job. That sentence didn't just hit me. It rewired me. If your boss hears you break and doesn't even flinch, if your pain doesn't register as real to him, if your loyalty is invisible, then you are not an employee. You are a tool. Disposable, replaceable, forgettable. Something inside me turned cold. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself. I just said, okay, because the moment he dismissed my entire experience, I knew I was done. Not just done with the week, not just done with this job. I was done giving them anything, effort, time, stress, skill, or loyalty. The next morning, I walked into the store with a strange calmness. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger requires hope, and I didn't have any left for them. I finished the final sessions of the week with robotic precision. Every smile practiced, every pose mechanical. Families thanked me, complimented me, praised my patience. The same praise the company always took credit for. Every "You're amazing at this" was a small reminder of the talent they refused to value. When the last customer left, I dismantled the backdrop, folded the props, unplugged the lights, and packed everything neatly into the company bins. Then I wrote a note, just for words, and taped it to the equipment. This is my last week. No drama. No long explanation. No begging to stay. Just truth. When I walked out of the store, the evening air hit me like freedom. My legs were weak, my eyes burned, but for the first time in years, my heart felt steady. I knew I would never step into that store as their employee again. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because in that moment, I wasn't losing a job, I was gaining my life back. I went home, slept for almost 14 hours, blocked the jerk's number, ignored the company emails, and waited. And it didn't take long. The panic started on Monday. The manager called. Then the regional manager, then the higher. They wanted to talk. They wanted to fix things. They wanted to work something out, but all I felt was a quiet, unshakable clarity. They only wanted me because they were losing money. Not because they cared. Not because they respected me. Just because they needed someone to exploit. And they no longer had access to me. But the real story, the real twist, the real revenge, that started afterward. After they lost me. After their system began to crack. After I realized I had everything I needed to build something better and take everything they thought they owned. The revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was smart, calculated, inevitable, and completely, deliciously legal. But that, for the first time in months, the Monday after I quit, felt peaceful. I woke up without an alarm, without dread, without that suffocating weight on my chest. I made myself breakfast, an actual breakfast. Not a granola bar shoved into my mouth between photo sessions. I sat by the window and let the morning light hit my face. It felt strange, almost unreal. Like my life had suddenly shifted into a different timeline where I was allowed to breathe. But the quiet didn't last long. My phone buzzed. Then again, and again, emails, calls, voicemails, messages, all from the company. At first I ignored them. I wasn't playing their game anymore. But by the afternoon, I got curious. I opened my voicemail and listened. Hey, we saw your note. Call us back when you get this. Then another. I think we can work something out. Then another. We really need to talk. This is important. Then, we can offer you a raise if that's what this is about. And finally, the one that made me laugh out loud. We'd hate to lose your talent. Let's discuss this professionally. Professionally. After they ignored my warnings, dismissed my burnout, refused to help, and sent me behind the worst preseller in company history. The same boss who told me my suffering was just part of the job suddenly wanted to treat me like I mattered. But here's the thing, people who value you don't wait until they're losing money to show it. I didn't call back. The next morning, the regional manager emailed me personally. Then the national manager. Then HR. Then one of the salespeople who used to follow my events called me, telling me the company was in chaos because customers were furious about the delays, missing you, asking where you were, complaining their photos weren't the same quality. And I realized something shocking. I was never replaceable. They just pretended I was, and now they were paying the price. Within a week, their panic turned into desperation. They offered me more money, more flexibility, a better preseller, a lower quota, extra pay per session, promotions, bonuses, all the things they claimed they couldn't afford before. But it was too late. I didn't quit on impulse. I quit because they broke something in me that couldn't be fixed. And once you lose respect for a company, you never get it back. While they were scrambling, something else began to happen, something I hadn't planned, but something that felt like the universe was gently nudging me toward destiny. Customers started messaging me directly. Families asking, "Are you doing independent sessions now?" Mothers saying, "Your pictures were the only ones my kids smiled in." A store manager even asked, "If you ever want to work privately, we'd rather book you than the company." And that's when it hit me. I didn't need them, but they needed me more than they ever admitted. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and wrote one simple question at the top. What if I did this myself? The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I knew the lighting setups. I knew the booking system. I knew exactly how long sessions should actually take, not the ridiculous 10-minute rush they forced on us. I knew pricing, upselling, customer behavior. I knew what families loved, what frustrated them, what made them spend money. I knew everything the company had tried to hide behind corporate jargon. They had unknowingly trained me to run their entire business model, only better, cleaner, fairer, more human. What they didn't realize was that by overworking me, they had also overeducated me. I spent weeks planning, not out of revenge at first, just out of necessity. But the more I built, the more I realized the truth. If a company mistreats you, the smartest revenge is success they can't control. I bought a high-quality camera, invested in my own lighting kit, built a simple website, set up social pages, created booking forms, wrote down clear policies, honest ones, the opposite of the jerk's lies. I even chose a business name that meant something personal to me, a name that represented freedom. And then I launched quietly, no big announcement, no dramatic reveal, just a single post. Now, booking private portrait sessions. Within 48 hours, I was fully booked. Within 2 weeks, I had to open a wait list. Within a month, I had made more money on my own than I ever made in 3 months with the company. And then karma is a beautiful thing. The calls from the salespeople started coming. Customers are asking for you. Families want to know where you went. People are refusing to book with our new photographers. They're canceling because they want you. The company panicked again. They tried to hire me back at double pay. They tried to partner with me. They even tried threatening to take legal action over what I never found out, because their own lawyer told them they had nothing. My business was clean, legal, independent, untouchable. And I hadn't stolen anything. Not clients, not equipment, not contracts. I didn't need to. Customers found me on their own. The company's sales dropped. Their events lost money. Their reputations slipped. Their staff quit. Their stores began canceling partnerships. And the cherry on top? The jerk, the preseller who caused all this, was eventually fired, not because of me, but because once the company started losing money, they actually started paying attention. And when they did, they discovered the truth. He had been lying to customers for years. Just like I warned them, he was the first to go. But he wasn't the last. Managers were replaced. Territories shut down. Entire regions collapsed. The company shrank, and I grew. My revenge wasn't loud, dramatic, or violent. It was slow, silent, professional, smart. Because the truth is, the best revenge isn't ruining someone's life. The best revenge is building a life they can never be part of. And that's exactly what I did.